everybody, Martyn the Flicking Feathers again today, and I'm tying a Rhody Flatwing, well, Peabody's pattern. Excellent flatwing pattern, great blend of colours, fairly straightforward flatwing if you're just starting into them because it's only a single feather, and I mean it certainly catches fish. I'm tying it about 3.5–4 inches, but you can tie them much bigger or smaller to suit your fishing. And again, depending on what you're trying to imitate and all that, you can tie them sparser, you can tie them a bit heavier, just suit yourself, suit your fishing. What do you like? Now, as always, I'll put a materials list in the description, along with a link to the Patreon page for anybody who wants to support the channel. Got access to the online tying classes, some members only content, and be entered into the giveaways. Alternatively, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell button so you get notified of the new videos and come and watch them. Watch the video all the way to the end, leave a comment below, give a thumbs up, all that helps the channel to grow. Now I've got my hook and my vise. I'm using a Gamakatsu S10S. It's quite similar to the SL12. I've run on some fine clear mono. If you prefer, you can use white thread. And I'm going to start with my tail platform. I'm using some Bucktail. I went for I like a fairly coarse Bucktail for this, and I'm no stacking it or anything. I want that natural taper. And I'm going to come back, so like there's a hook length, a hook and a half, right, or 2 shank lengths, something like that. This is enough to help support that tail and prevent fouling the saddle, and the flash is going to come back to that black bit in my vise. So just offer this in. 3 or 4 wraps, and I'm no spreading it around the shank or anything, I'm just leaving it tied in there. I'm going to lift the material up at an angle, quite shallow, keep my scissors parallel with the shank, cut a taper, right? I often see people tying videos and all that, or when I'm doing classes, they pre-cut the bucktail to a square end and they tie it in 3mm, 1/8 of an inch. You shouldn't do that because it makes for a weaker fly, right? You're no, as I'm going forward here, you can see I'm catching each hair because it's cut at an angle. But I've also made a nice smooth base for anything that comes after, right? Rather than having a bump that I need to fight. So I'll come back, a couple of hairs there, fold it back, just catch them with the thread. And then I'm ready for my saddle hackle. It's better now if you can get a saddle patch, it's better. If you don't have that, fine, don't worry about it. You can use strung hackles, but you will need to sort through them. It's fine. Right, don't use a big webby wide one. You just need to find ones like this, right, sort of long, sword shaped feathers. And I'm going to just set my length. Right, I know I'm coming to here, so I'll just strip that. Now the tie-in point is going to be back here, so I'm slightly long. I'm maybe 1/8 longer than I want the finished article to be, but that's fine, right? And you'll see why in a minute. Now I'm going to first of all get a wee bit of the fluff from the bottom and dub it onto my thread, creating what we call the pillow, right? A lot of folk miss this on their flat wings, but the pillow really helps to make the feather sit properly. It's as if it sort of absorbs the thread torque or something when you're tying it in. So you can see there I've used olive, but there's an olive hackle going on top of it. You don't need to worry about like hiding it or anything. And I'll just completely clean the bottom of the feather, and I'll offer this in, and I'll set it flat on top, and I'm going to let my thread wrap just come over two, right, and it's just the weight of the bobbin and the bobbin holder. I've not put any pressure on it, and I'm just going to set it flat now, just pull that in, I'll tighten, right, and then I'll come down, and I'm going to run this tie in all the way down here as well, right. And you see that it just sat flat perfectly. When I tightened that, there was the tiniest movement, but it was that pillow sort of compressing, right, and allowing that feather to sit there, and it will always sit there, it will never move, it will never twist on you. Flash, get this ready already, is what I've got here is I've got 3 strands of pearl and 2 strands of gold flashabou, just plain ordinary flashabou, and you can use copper I suppose if you want a slightly darker fly. We'll tie this in. The ends are already staggered because I've been messing about with it, and I want it to be just a hair longer than the saddle. The longest one, the longest strand is maybe 8 or 10 mil longer. Right, that sort of gives you an idea of the length. And then I like to fold them back. I know some people say that's an over flashed fly or there's too much flash in it or whatever, but I don't mind putting it in. You know, it's just waste that you'd cut away anyway. You can put it in like if you're fishing at night and there's not a lot of available light, sometimes a bit extra flash is good. But if you feel it's too much, there's nothing stopping you cutting it off when you're on the water. Right? If you look at the fly and you go, oh, it's popping too much or something, just cut it off. Right. I'm a great believer in that. Put it in and you can take it out. If you don't put it in, well, you can't add it later, you know. So I'm just cementing everything. I'll let that soak in a wee bit. And that bucktail into the roots of that feather. I'll take away my excess. I'm going to get some pearl body braid. Come in, I'll tie it, and I'm going to leave a wee gap. I'm tying it on my side. I'm leaving a tiny gap, right, so that when I fold it over, the braid doesn't disturb that hackle, right? Because the braid creates torque the same as your thread. I'm just going to wrap this back. I've not been too fussy. You can see that, I just let that creep over. Don't mind, right? You never see it. Now I'm going to come in with some more cement. Don't need my thick goopy stuff. And now I'm going to embed the braid into the cement. You see, you can see on the top there that fold it over, and it's exactly on the tie-in point without disturbing the tail. And I'm just going to overlap this in the way forward, about half the braid width. And I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but when you do this yourself, if you do it over the cement, you'll see what the braid carries the cement forward and also squeezes it in between. So I've coated that in with two wraps, fold it back, take another two, trim them away, right? Never come out. If you really want it, you can stick a whip finish, half inch in. I'm going to come in with some more bucktail. I'm going to do the belly. Don't want a huge amount of hair on the belly. Just enough to give you the shape right? You don't want to put a lot of buoyant material in the underside there. So I'm just going to get a bunch of hair. Again, clean away any rubbish. A wee bit heavy handed there. Just take that away. You know, if you think you've got too much, don't just tie the bunch in because you've got it in your hand. I had a wee bit much, so I'm took some of it away. Now again, it's unstacked, it's just as it is. Lengthwise, I want the sort of longest fibres of the belly coming in to sort of match the taper of the tail. And don't worry if it'll flare when you tie it and all that, but once it's been wet, it'll be fine. So just offer that in, just pull it, let the hook split it. See how it wants to sit. That's nice. We'll catch this in, and I'm catching it right in at what will be the back of the head. Right, this is the back tie-in, the back of the tie-in point, and I'm moving my thread forward slightly, but I'm leaving space so that when I come in, I can lift this up again at an angle and come in with the thread, the scissors, so that's again a tapered cut. Right, this will help shape my head, and again it helps me get I can come into the cut ends there with my thread, and the thread's actually making contact with more hairs. Right, this one's crept up above, so I'm going to remove it and just make sure it's a nice clean thing. And you can hit it with your thumbnail. You can even apply pressure over the thread wrap and it'll help spread it. You see there I've got a nice belly. It will taper in nicely when it's swimming. And then another bunch here of white. It can be similar, even maybe slightly less because you've got multiple tie-ins here. Right, I mean it's very easy to overdo it. But I like to get right up to the edge of overdoing it. I like a wee bit of bulk at the front, but no too much. And the more of them you tie, you'll start to sort of see what you like. It's sort of similar length to the belly. I'm going to use a bit of long thread to get the stretch, and I'll actually put more pressure in there. Again, I'll rock it with my thumb. Now, what I like to do is look down from the top, right, and manipulate this, because you're looking side on, like I'm looking at it side on now, I'm looking at the top and bottom. That gives you the profile, but this view across the back, making sure the hair's evenly distributed, that's what lets you know the fly will track true. Right? Again, lift that up, trim it at an angle. Right, if there's too much hair on one side, is what I mean, compared to the other, it will pull the fly. You've got that because the buoyancy is not distributed evenly. I'm just at the front there, and I'm just coming into these cut ends, securing this, and I'm going to make sure that my tie-in point is straight and I'm right back. Right, just going to flatten that wing a wee bit, but that's fine. Right, this bucktail's from right up at the tip of the tail, and it's quite coarse. It's not really a flaring hair, which I like on this pattern. So my back tie-in's nice and straight, the head length set. I don't want any creep. Right, you don't want to be moving forward. And I'm going to add a bit of more cement. Right, I mean the fly's tied in, the material's tied in, I should say. It's nice and secure, but it does no harm to put a wee bit of extra cement in and just add some extra durability, so you get some more fish out of one fly. Right, because these will last. You know, the bucktail will eventually get beat up and all that, but they will last quite well if you tie them securely. And you add the cement, it really does, they can be quite durable. I mean, they're not going to stand up to a bluefish or something like that, but like if you're catching bass on them, they'll last for ages. Next is some yellow, about the same amount, I would say, maybe slightly more even. I'll up to you. I like the yellow to be quite prominent in a Rhody, but again, suit yourself. Just take a wee bit. That was just a wee bit much. Slightly longer than the white, no much longer, just a wee shade, right? Don't. If you make the wing suddenly too long, the wing will foul up on the hook. The sort of gradual increase in length is what you're going for. Just hit that with my nail again. Spread it. Look at it in for the top. I want a good kind of coat of hair, a good veil of hair over the top half. That's what I like. Right? If you like it sort of more vertical or whatever, you do that. Again, if you like less yellow, I'm cutting these at an angle. Come to the front. Tie over, and then again make sure I'm right back at the back of the head. Right, I don't want creep. I want that tie-in off to be nice and aligned. I'm going to take a wee bit of blue. I don't want as much blue as I had yellow. I mean, a third. I would say a third at the most. Maybe even slightly less. There we go. It looks like more than that, but once you spread it out, it's no. And this tail, it's the only one I've got in the shade of blue that I want at the moment. I would actually like a slightly coarser hair, but this isn't really doing it, and it's just colour anyway, so I'm not that stressed out about the exact quality of the hair, right? I mean, you've just got to work with what you've got, what's available, and then just spread that well. I want that to look like it's blending in with the yellow. Again, make sure the tie-in's right back. Trim off at an angle, and I'm going to come to the front. Create a nice. What I'm basically doing, I'm making sure I've got. Every time I do that, I come to the front to tidy up. That's why I'm using the fine mono rather than the medium mono. I'm giving myself a nice base to tie the next thing on. Now, again, this is something you don't see a lot of nowadays. There's a wee bit of, a lot of people omit this. Get yourself half a dozen strands of Chartreuse crystal flash. Now I'm going to knock the ends out again, taper the ends, knock them out of alignment. I'm going to sort of set them on the side, kind of upper half, and I'm tying them in flat so they're not all together. They will open up into the side of the wing. Bring them around the front of the nose there. Now before I come back on this side, again I want to make sure that they're separate and flat. So that they kind of incorporate into the overall size of the wing. Even if one goes down the side, it's not that big a deal. And I'm just going to come in, cut them at different lengths. I don't want any that are a wee longer than the bucktail. You just make sure. There you go. And you can see, hopefully you can see that as I turn it, that it's kind of sparkly around there the side. I don't know if the camera's picking that up that well. See it there. The last tie in a bucktail, I'm using olive. And again, like, I sort of feel that don't, I mean, like if you read like A Perfect Fish and Stripe or Moon and all that, I mean, they're Kenny Abrams books, but talking about like it's got to be count the number of strands, it's 30 strands of hair and all this. I don't think you need to be that worried about that. I mean, if you want to take that as a guide, take it as a proportion guide. You know, if it's 30 and 15. But really, ultimately, you need to suit yourself. What do you like? Now, just some shorter hairs there I would take away. I'm going to let this olive be just again marginally longer than the yellow and the blue. And there's a couple of shorter hairs in there that I've maybe missed. But we'll just pull them out once this is tied in a bit more securely. There we go. Because I don't want to disturb the rest of the wing, right? And I'm going to spread that over, get that olive back, get it nicely distributed. Come to the front, getting at the cut ends of that hair. Again, I'm not going to allow myself to creep forward. I want that tie-in point to be in exactly the same point. See how we look. I like that. I don't like them to be too olive. When you've got the olive in the tail as well, right? So you do get that kind of darker colour. Plus the peacock herl darkens the back. I just like it to be a nice blend. And that's my last thing to tie in now is some peacock herl. 4 or 5. Now I'm not too fussed on having the tips perfectly aligned, as long as it's kind of thereabouts. I think actually it's maybe not a bad thing if they are sort of unevenly lengthed. Just sort of adding to that the overall taper. Quite like the peacock be longer than the bucktail but shorter than the saddle hackle. Saddle hackle's here. The saddle hackle's here where my scissors is. There's the end of the longest strand of the peacock, so it's 10-12 mil, something like that of a difference. But again, some people like it longer, some people like it shorter. You do what you like. Just tie that in, make sure it's nicely sitting on top. Trim. And then again, just tidy up. And you don't need it to be perfectly clean. Right, there's a couple of wee fuzzy bits there for the peacock coming through the thread wraps, like the flue of the herl. Don't worry about that. As soon as you put your cement on, that's gone. Right, that's well tied in. 2 whip finishes. Trim away my waist. Come in and put a wee curve into that peacock. Now you don't really need to do that because I mean you can see it's kind of like a paintbrush at the moment off sticking out. Once you wet it and slick it down, you'll end up with that nice taper. You know, the flies all coming together, it swims all as one thing. And that's the last thing you need to do really. Once the varnish is dry, I always give it a couple of coats, maybe 3. Get a nice glossy I mean, look, one's enough for fishing, but I like to put a couple on a nice glossy, hard head. And once that's dry, I stick it into the, run it under the tap and let it hang and dry, and that'll get you a nice shape. Alternatively, you can dry it with a hairdryer as well. That works. So I hope that was useful. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, remember to give me a thumbs up below, and I'll see you for another one. Tail lines, guys. Bye.